Hey, kia ora Rotorua. I'm Haydn Marriner and I'm standing for the Rotorua Lakes Council 2016. I think I'd be an excellent councillor because I've been working for the last 10 years in the tourism industry, and tourism is our largest employer in town and it should have a seat at the table. I also come from a forestry family. My father, Tony Marriner, ran Marriner logging from Nongataha for over 40 years, and forestry is our largest GDP contributor. So someone for the background in both forestry and tourism, I think, could make a real contribution to both the business community and our wider community. I also am a born and bred Rotorua boy. Nongataha Primary School, Rotorua Primary, Kaitau Intermediate, and of course Rotorua Boys High School. I have a strong passion for our town and innovative and fresh ideas. I'm nobody's I don't know what you call it, lackey, I suppose.
Lackey, nobody's lackey. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're your own man.
I come from an independent family, Phil, and people who encourage independent thought. And the best part about that is, being from Rotorua, I still understand what the rest of New Zealand doesn't, and that's the sun revolves around us. So vote for Haydn Marriner. I'm only asking for one of your ticks out of 10 for this year's council elections.
Thanks for that, Haydn. That's interesting, you bring that up, because one of the questions we've been asking candidates is, where do they sort of sit on the spectrum? Council's got a few factions at the moment.
Sure.
So where would you sort of see yourself sitting? Would you be more down, towards, a Steve supporter, or?
I don't think I don't sort of look at it as voting for the person. I think most people I know would prefer to see somebody who's going to vote according to what's right and what's best for the community. Factional voting in a lot of cases can actually, I suppose, muddy the waters. People are voting out of loyalty instead of what's the best decision, and our town needs the best decision. And my generation of people coming up, and we're going to be inheriting Rotorua, and we want the best decisions made now so that in 20 years time we're not having to retro fix everything that wasn't done 20 years from now.
Yeah. So just, we run a couple of yes no questions to see where people sit on various issues at the moment.
Sure.
So one of them is the Green Corridor, the Cycleway. So where do you sit on that? Do you support it?
I support Cycleways. They're an awesome, and the business case studies that have been presented say that people who ride bikes, especially from a tourism perspective, they do spend more money in the retail space. I think people have been a little hard on the Cycleway. It's only stage one, and we've only put in $100,000. The other cycleways in New Zealand, which have been phenomenally successful, most notably New Plymouth, had $12 million spent on it. And the Island Bay Cycleway in Wellington had a hell of a lot more, I believe it was $8 million. So our 100,000 Cycleway, probably not quite there. But the Cycleway team is working really hard, and I have been to their update. So they're going to increase it to Rotorua. Let's see what happens.
So on a yes, no, that'll be a yes?
That'll be a stage one's hasn't been so successful, but if we can get the second and third stages right, it'll be a yes.
Yeah, okay. A couple of the councillors are campaigning that any future rate increases should be kept to 2% maximum. Do you support that?
Sure, if they're gonna cap council expenditure at 2% too. It doesn't make any sense. I'm really sorry, but 2% rate increases, while sound financially really good, could actually handicap our town. I'd like to say let's have an aspirational goal of 2%, but if we need 3% or even 4%, we should go for it, because we don't want to end up having negative growth because we saved 1% on our rates.
Yeah.
Seems a bit cutting your nose off to spite your face, maybe.
Yeah. And the health hub at the library, do you support that?
I support access to health for our children, and particularly one that's close to the public transport. And anything that's going to save our council a little bit of money, particularly putting a new roof on the council, I think is really positive. So I haven't seen the finalised plans for how it's actually going to function for the health hub, but I do love the idea of making a health hub accessible for our kids in our city. Really positive.
And finally, the Te Arawa partnership partnership, do you support that?
Actually, I really do. It's shown in New Zealand through academic evidence that statutory advisory boards, especially ones that have of a cultural nature, don't work. They only work as well as the council that listens to them and empowers them to be. And we saw from the Te Arawa Standing Committee that when the Rotorua Council decided to ignore them, that they became a token board, whereas this partnership seems to be a little bit more meaningful, and the rest of New Zealand is envious of what we've done. So I'm definitely a supporter of it.
Yeah, I thought you might be. And finally, can you tell us a little personal story about yourself, something our viewers might know about you?
Your viewers might not know. Since I shaved my mustache off just last month, I was Shay in Evita. And I've bungee jumped, I've skydived, I've thrown myself off a cliff in a deck chair, I've ridden quad bikes, but the scariest thing I ever did was wasn't actually singing on stage, it was walking around in public with a mustache on and trying to explain to people why I had it and it wasn't November. So that's something you might not know.
Oh, now I know, yeah.
That's but I was in Evita, and that was an awesome thing, and I'd love to see more people turning out for the Rotorua Musical Theatre.
Awesome. Hey, thank you very much for your time and all the best on the campaign trail.
Cheers, Phil.
Kia ora.